Howdy folks, this is Fuzzy Road to Health and I'm Fuzzy D. So today I got another recipe for you. I'm going to be showing you how to do my butter mayo. And this butter mayo is special. It's a little different than last time. So it's going to be fermented again so that it'll keep in the fridge for a few months, if it'll live that long. It gets eaten pretty quick around here. But the major difference is that it's the exact same ingredients, but I'm doing it differently. I'm combining the ingredients differently. And this is going to be spreadable even after sitting in the fridge. So that's the magic of the tweak that I've made. Thank Chris Cooking or Nashville, or Chris Cooking with Nashville, something like that. I keep forgetting how to say his channel right. My apologies if you ever see this. So I'm using his technique, and you'll see what that is when we get into it. Let's get started. I've had a recipe on my channel before for butter mayo, but it comes out pretty rock hard once it's in the fridge. So this will be a nice change. Also, last time I did it, I used one of those immersion blenders. Today I'm going to use our Ninja blender, and we're going to do a large batch. So kind of like I did last time. So what I've got here is a full pound of butter, salted butter. This is just no name salted butter. And so this is equivalent to 4 sticks. So we're going to be using 4 eggs. And what I'm going to do to melt this is I'm just going to stick it in my Ninja air fryer. So this is the Ninja Pro XL. So now you can do it with the double boiler method, where you put a pot of water on the stove and then put your container of butter in it and melt it that way, and that works fine. It's the way I've always done it before, but I found this is pretty convenient. Oops. So I've just got it set on reheat, and I'm going to start off with 15 minutes and put the temperature at 250. I use this same method for liquefying tallow that I've got in a jar or something. So we'll let this do its thing, and when it's melted and had a chance to cool off a little bit, we still want it fairly warm, but not hot, then we'll come back and do the rest of the recipe. Our butter is done. It actually took about 40 minutes total time. Now, you know, the water bath method will do it faster, but I just find this a lot more convenient. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to check the temperature. So I'm going to grab my temperature probe, set on Fahrenheit. So it looks like my temperature is going to be right around 145, might make it to 146. Looks like it's going to be 145, and that's exactly what we want. That is the perfect temperature to get the emulsification that you want, and it won't cook the yolks. Well, I'm going to get my camera set up on a tripod there for you. So sorry for the vertical video format here. But it was the only way I could get everything into frame. I don't have enough counter space to have gotten my camera back far enough and then zoom it in. So my apologies. Got to work within these limitations until I get my island built, which will hopefully be in the next couple of weeks. We're just going to let the butter sit here while we make some preparations. So I've got some measuring spoons, a teaspoon and a tablespoon. I've got 4 eggs. And we're going to separate these eggs. So I've got a little separator. I don't like trying to do it with the shell. I've got an issue with my neck, pinching a nerve, and my hand doesn't work very well, so I got this cute little ducky thing. Okay, pop our top up here. And we're going to put the white in here. Oh, well, that yolk kind of broke as it was going in the bowl, and I was hoping this would separate it, but we're going to have to start over. Well, actually, no. Yeah, we're going to have to start over. Sorry about that. Let's try that again here. Well, folks, I cannot recommend this egg separator. This thing sucks. It breaks the yolk just the way it forces it in there as I'm trying to drain it. That's not working. All right, I'll have to get something different. Get one of the wire ones I saw, I guess. So we're gonna have to do this the old-fashioned way. Since I can't do this shell to shell, I don't think, well, let me try it. I know a lot of people say you're not supposed to do this, but I'm not worried about it. We're carnivore after all. Our immune system is a little different from everyone else's. Okay, so we'll put that in there. I just gotta grab a couple more eggs out of the fridge. Now, something that we have to do, I forgot to take these out to get to room temperature. So once I've got the yolks in there, we're just going to let it sit for a few minutes till we warm up to room temperature. Otherwise, it takes forever to make your mayonnaise. You might be asking yourself, why is he separating the eggs? Well, this is the new tweak. So we're still using the whole egg. We're just not putting the whole egg in all at once. And that is the magic that's going to make it spreadable even in the fridge. It's not going to get rock hard even after it ferments. Okay, so I'm going to let this warm up to room temperature. So I'll bring you back in just a few minutes. Well, for you it'll be second. Oh, and we're back. So I actually waited about 15 minutes or so just to make sure that these warmed up properly. So when we're ready, we can put them on the blender. We're going to add our other ingredients. For those of you who are extremely strict carnivore, if you see me adding something that you wouldn't eat, just don't add it. But the way I look at it is this makes a really large jar of mayo. I'm only putting really tiny amounts of this stuff in, and you're only having a little bit of mayo at a time. So, and what I am adding, I'm not really too sensitive to. If I get too much garlic, that can trigger one of my autoimmune diseases with facial stuff, my eczema flares. But this isn't going to be enough to trigger anything like that. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a very small pinch of salt, because this is salted butter that we're using. So we just want a little, like tiny pinch of salt, and this is that Baja Gold natural grain. So that's going to help the egg yolks emulsify better. So that's why I'm putting just the tiniest pinch to help with that. And then I'm going to put in a teaspoon of granulated garlic. Now, again, this is completely optional. But to me, it just doesn't taste like, this actually comes out tasting more like Miracle Whip than it does like standard mayonnaise. And without the garlic, it just doesn't taste like that for me. So, and I'm going to put in a little bit of fresh ground black pepper. So that's maybe a third of a teaspoon. So it's just a little tiny amount. Okay, and we're going to take a tiny bit of raw, unpasteurized apple cider vinegar with the mother. And we're just going to put a tablespoon of this in. And this is also what helps give it that kind of Miracle Whip tang. Now this, because of how vinegar is made, it's perfectly carnivore. It's actually really healthy for you. Raw apple cider vinegar is good for the digestion and other things in your body. It can also help you when you're trying to lose weight. And I'm going to put in a tablespoon of lemon juice. Now again, you don't have to add this. It doesn't bother me. I don't have any negative effects with this. And it's, you know, I mean, it's just for the little bit of flavoring. We're not putting very much in here, and you get so little with every serving. But it's perfectly up to you. You don't need to add it. This just gives it more of that Miracle Whip flavoring that I really like. Okay, so we've got all that in there. So we're going to put it on our base. Top on. Now I'm going to have to turn this away from the camera a little bit because I need to access this port to put the butter in. So I just put this back in the toaster oven so that it didn't get too cool while we were waiting for the yolks to warm up. So I'm just going to stir this up so the milk solids are incorporated. Okay, we're going to just start this. I'm going to pulse it a little bit, and then I'm going to put it on low, basically, while we, or sorry, medium while we incorporate. So on this Ninja, that'd be number 2. The thing I really like about the Ninja is that the way these blades are designed, even if you got a small amount right in the very bottom, it still picks it up and mixes it. And some mixers don't do that. So I'm going to switch hands here with my glove, and we're going to start pouring this in. Now let me get this centered on camera a little bit better for you. Okay, so I'm going to put this on 2. And we're just going to drizzle the butter slowly. Okay, let's see if it's actually turned into mayonnaise. No, I'm just going to scrape these sides down here. Now, I don't remember if I mentioned it earlier, but I made sure that that butter was between 140 and 150 degrees Fahrenheit. That way it emulsifies properly without cooking the yolks. So I want to just show this to you. So if we look in here, hopefully you can see that. So it's actually mayonnaise. And let's see if it tastes like mayonnaise. Oh yeah, that tastes like mayonnaise. Now at this point it doesn't have that Miracle Whip flavor because we haven't put in the kefir and it hasn't fermented. And we use so little of the other ingredients that it needs the addition of that part of the process. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, now that it's mayo, we want this to stay spreadable. So that's what this next step is going to do. Just give me a second here. I got to grab some kefir. So this is homemade kefir. And how we started this is we just took whole milk from the store and we took a jar, poured milk in the jar, and took a tablespoon of commercial kefir, one that we liked, and put it in and let it sit on the counter for 72 hours and it creates our own kefir. So now I'm going to take a tablespoon of that. Actually, it wasn't quite full. Okay, so we have a tablespoon of kefir. Now it doesn't have to be homemade kefir. Commercial kefir is fine as long as it's raw, unpasteurized with live bacteria. Then it'll work for this. Okay, so you remember these egg whites that we had separated. So now that it's actually mayo, we're going to put these egg whites in and we're going to blend it back for about 10 seconds. Now remember, this is the first time I'm doing this, but this is according to Chris Cooking Nashville. While I was waiting, I went and looked up his name to make sure I got it right. So shout out to him for this. So we just do this for 10 seconds. Okay, that's it. Now we're going to find that it is now thinned right out. And it's going to seem like it's way too thin. But once this ferments and once it cools off in the fridge, it's going to be perfect, just like the mayo you take out of the fridge that's from the store. And that's one of the things, one of the reasons you don't want to let it go longer than 10 seconds. You just need to get it incorporated. Any more than that, and then it'll break and separate, and you don't want that. So I'm going to take a quart sealer, and this will just fit in that. Now these blades are the biggest reason why I love the Ninja. It doesn't matter what you're working with. It works it up and down inside that blender better than anything I've ever seen. Way better than a Vitamix. even though it's not as expensive. Okay, so I'm just gonna again scrape the sides down. You don't want to leave any of this goodness behind. So you can see it's actually pretty thin again, but it hasn't broken, it hasn't separated. Oh yeah, last time I forgot I had added in some other stuff, so it took a little more room in the jar. But so I'm just going to throw a lid on that and stick it in the fridge. Or actually, no, I'm not going to stick it in the fridge. I'm going to throw a lid on that. So I'm going to throw a lid on this, and I'm going to leave it on the counter. You can do it anywhere from 8 to 12 hours. I'm going to let it go for 12 because I like that slightly stronger flavor. The longer you leave it out, it gets a slightly stronger, more intense flavor. But at 8 hours, it doesn't really change the flavor, except give it that little bit of a Miracle Whip tang. So I'll bring you back after it's fermented and been refrigerated, and I'll show you how well it spreads. We will see you in a little bit. Okay, so I let it sit out on the counter actually for about 10 hours, and then it's been in the fridge for 6 hours. So let's take a look and see. Let's take a look and see how spreadable it is. Oh, look at that! Look how soft and spreadable this mayo is. This is incredible. Absolutely a big thank you to Chris Cooking Nashville for that little tweak. Now let's see what this tastes like. Oh yeah, it's got that perfect tang. Almost exactly like Miracle Whip, with maybe a slight flavoring of cream cheese in a way. So there you have it. Our new and improved carnivore mayonnaise made with butter, and it stays spreadable, and this one is fermented, so it'll last in the fridge for months if you can keep from eating it for that long. And this is absolutely wonderful to put on everything. It doesn't taste exactly like traditional mayonnaise, doesn't taste precisely like Miracle Whip, but it's like the best of both worlds, with that little bit of extra cream cheese kick that you'll love to have on all your meat dishes. So, hope you give this a try, and make sure you go over and check out Chris Cooking Nashville. He's got a fantastic channel, all kinds of really good science when it comes to cooking with carnivore. All right, folks, if you feel we've earned it, please take a moment to like and subscribe and click on the notification bell so you catch our next cooking videos coming out, as well as the other videos that we do here on this channel. Thanks for hanging out with us today. We'll see you on the next one, folks.